Alright, so we're back with another video. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And we're going to see in this episode whether or not this is a game you need to be picking up, or if it's, since EA is trash. Look, let me level with you. First off, just because EA makes a game doesn't make it trash. Now, I know it's easy to bandwagon on the hate train that is hating EA, but honestly, I don't hate EA. And if you're not gonna pick this game up because EA is making it, you're missing out, because spoiler alert, you need this game. This is actually, to me, a strong contender for Game of the Year. It is absolutely, I absolutely love this game. But with this review, we're going to be diving into all the different aspects of it, the highs, the lows, the in-betweens, the story, the gameplay, all that jazz. So, in case I haven't already introduced myself, I'm Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii's favorite YouTuber, host of the #1 podcast in the state of Hawaii, the Kasanova Podcast. And also, I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and occasionally Saturday. Here's an infographic of my stream schedule, so come check us out on the Kasanova streams. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this review of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Roll the intro of the video. Star Wars and great Star Wars games is something that you wouldn't expect to hear in the same sentence, especially given that the licensing for Star Wars video games has been in the hands of EA for as long as one can remember. And also given their tendencies to microtransaction every little thing that they can in their games, has left many very unhappy that they still have the Star Wars IP. And honestly, while 2017 Star Wars Battlefront 2 was a substantial step up from the previous Battlefront game, it still was in no ways a great Star Wars game. Good, but nowhere near great. So color me surprised when EA announced that they were releasing a new Star Wars game that not only was a single player experience, something EA said gamers no longer care about, but also had zero microtransactions. While I was a skeptic of this claim of EA's, I was also curious as to how the game was turning out, and while I'm in no way a Star Wars fan, I do have an interest in the series, especially since I've gotten into the Mandalorian and Disney Plus. So does Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order have what it takes to bring in non-Star Wars fans like myself and hardcore fans as well? Let's find out. Now we're going to touch on the story first. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order takes place 5 years after Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith and before Solo, a Star Wars story, Star Wars Rebels, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. The game follows young Jedi Padawan Cal Kestis 5 years after the execution of Order 66 and the beginning of the Great Jedi Purge, where we have Cal on planet Bracca, where he is a junk scrapper with his friend Prof, until an event happens which forces Cal to use the Force to save Prof, which triggers a set of events that lead to the death of Prof and Cal being hunted across the galaxy by Inquisitor Trilla. It goes on from there, spanning a story of growth, revenge, and redemption. I'm not going to go any deeper into the story because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, because there's a lot of twists and turns that, and honestly, for me, as someone who's not too familiar with the Star Wars lore, I wasn't really seeing coming, but at the same time, it kept me hooked and also got me to a point where I want to delve into the Star Wars lore because it's just fascinating. I have to say, when it comes to the gameplay, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order fires on all cylinders in such a great way that it hardly ever lets up or lets you down. Want to feel like Lara Croft and explore your environments and find treasures? You can do that. Want to traverse different set pieces and climb around like Nathan Drake? You can do that. Want to have Zelda-style open worlds and dungeons with Metroidvania-style ability upgrades allowing you to go back to earlier areas to explore new levels? You most definitely can do that. The game is not only open world, or rather open planets, but it's also made in the vein of Metroidvania, where you are able to explore the various planets and then coming back to them later on with new abilities that both Cal and BD1 have learned to open up new avenues for the world that they couldn't previously reach to explore, such as when you get the double jump ability, or when you get force push or force pull, for example, or when BD1 can slice locked doors and boxes and control panels to obtain various upgrades for your lightsaber and more. The way the game controls is really intuitive, with a button for jumping, dodging, blocking, attacking, heavy force-powered attacks, force techniques, interacting with people and objects, and locking onto enemies. Everything works so seamlessly, from climbing to wall running, and most of all, the combat. The lightsaber combat in Jedi Fallen Order is the absolute best lightsaber combat that I have ever experienced in a Star Wars game, including the Jedi Knight series and the Force Unleashed series. The lightsaber combat feels so fluid that you can pretty much replicate what you see in the movies, as the sword fencing combat looks so well choreographed that it just works. It makes you feel like a true Jedi Knight when you come up against any of the enemies, from the flora and fauna, wildlife, Empire, Star Troopers, and even the mysterious Inquisitor. The gameplay just feels perfect, and you can tell that they really took their time to make sure the game plays as perfectly as it looks, and borrowed a lot of elements from other series to make a perfect amalgamation for this new title. You may have heard a lot of people saying that the game is a Dark Souls style Star Wars game. And honestly, it only takes one thing from the Soul series, being the campfires, which in the case of Star Wars are transitioned into meditation spots where you can not only say your progress, which ultimately revives all fallen enemies, but also upgrade all of your abilities. That's generally the only Soul style element to the game. Honestly, I'd more so compare this game to Zelda mixed with Metroidvania than a Souls game, and maybe more so Sekiro-esque, even albeit not anywhere near as hard unless on the highest difficulties. Boss fights are incredibly epic on a cinematic level of the God of War and Lords of Shadow style games, with bosses and common enemies giving telltale signs of unblockable attacks as they glow red. And enemies and bosses, they do have patterns that honestly are pretty well put together and not always obvious to figure out. And most attacks easy enough to parry and open up various counterattacks and finishing moves that can be executed. The skill tree system of Jedi Fallen Order is reminiscent of the Lords of Shadow and God of War style games, allowing you to obtain new moves and various buffs and health and force improvements, while flashbacks of Cal's training as a Padawan has him recalling various abilities, from wall running to force pull to double jumps and more as the journey continues. Graphically, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is visually breathtaking, and often it becomes very hard to distinguish many of the characters from real life when looking at Cal, Cere Junda, Night Sister Merrin, and even Saw Gerrera from Rogue One. While characters like Grease and BD-1 really shine and look as if they were pulled right from the movies. The worlds that you explore, from Bracca, Bogano, Dathomir, Zepho, Kashyyyk, Elim, and Nur, all look absolutely stunning and are incredibly lifelike. Enemies come in so many varieties, from the Empire to the bounty hunters and wildlife, and are all designed with incredible levels of details and animation and motion. You're given the option when playing on PS4 Pro or Xbox One X to either play with 4K visuals and HDR with 30 frames per second, or you can put the game in a performance mode, which locks the graphics at 1080p in a variable FPS that fluctuates between 60 FPS and the upper 30s, yet is never locked, and oftentimes can go from fluid looking to choppy. So for the sake of the review, I played the game with 4K HDR at 30 frames per second for the smoothest possible experience. When it comes to the audio, everything from the sounds of blasters to the igniting of lightsabers and the humming sounds and even lightsaber clashes sound exactly as they do in the movies. And even the Wookiees sound exactly as they do in the movies. The ambient soundtracks fit each planet you explore and the environments and the sounds of nature, or the environments from wind to snow to waterfalls and more, sounds incredibly on point. The voice acting and the facial capture and lip syncing is so on point that it bests even games like Death Stranding and God of War. The negatives of this game aren't many, as I didn't experience much other than one time I ran into a situation where the game crashed and I had to restart the game on my Xbox One X. Other issues I found were the occasional downgrade in graphics during some cutscenes, which makes some characters such as Cere, Saw, and Cal look almost cartoonish instead of realistic as often portrayed. I also absolutely hate the sliding areas, as when you initially encounter it on Bracca, it isn't so bad, but as the game progresses, it gets worse and worse and worse. and it's truly the one unwieldy aspect of the game, as often you'll need to take sharp turns and either Kyle will slide right off in the wrong direction to his death, or the momentum from sliding will make it incredibly hard to turn or jump. Another issue is how platforming in this game is not the greatest, and will often lead to falling to your death over and over and over, as sometimes the platforming aspects are not as responsive as they should be. The last downside that I have to mention is how anticlimactic the ending of the game is, and how out of nowhere it feels as if it easily could have gone on for a few more hours. With phenomenal graphics, voice acting, amazing soundtrack, and an incredibly engaging story, there's almost nothing to not like, let alone love, about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And even after you beat the game, you'll want to keep coming back and exploring more of what the world has to offer and become more proficient with your Force abilities and lightsaber combat skills. Even with some minor performance issues and occasional unintuitive and unresponsive sliding aspects in the game overall is really good, and honestly, you need this game, as it easily showcases that EA, when determined, can make a game that can easily be Game of the Year and not burden players with shady microtransactions. Even if you hate EA as a company, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is a game you shouldn't miss, especially if you're a fan of not only Star Wars, but also of excellent games. Add this game to your collection today. Alright, and that just about wraps up this review of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And like I said, you need this game. This game is just so phenomenal. Graphics, gameplay, audio, story, it's just so engaging. And honestly, like I said in the review, and like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're not playing this game, or if you're not picking this game up because you hate EA, you're doing yourself a disservice as a gamer. But with all that being said, what do you guys think? Do you have Jedi Fallen Order? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you absolutely hate it? Are there things about it you wish were improved? Whatever way you think, let's go ahead and get the conversation going down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button with all your Force ability and just share the video around it. If you think somebody might benefit from watching this review, share it with them. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and occasional Saturday. Here's the infographic that showcases the streaming schedule, and I'm also the host of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova podcast, so make sure you catch that out every single week. Brand new episodes, new guests from the gaming industry, the movie industry, and different content creators and more. I think you would absolutely love it. And if you listen to the podcast, make sure you leave a comment and rating on the iTunes version of it, so it definitely helps us out. And if you want to pick up this game, I have Amazon affiliate links down below. If you purchase it, I get a bit of a kickback, which ultimately goes back into the production and helps out the channel. So with that being said, deuces wild, too sweet, be the elite. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, why don't you make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share it with someone you think would enjoy it. You can catch me on all social media platforms from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and more. And if you enjoy the content and you want to support the channel, there's Patreon as well as channel memberships. Links for everything are down in the description below. And with that being said, this is Mekel Kasanova signing out. I enjoy you guys. You guys have a wonderful day. Aloha and mahalo.